Hello everybody, Loomer here again. Today I'm bringing you a Pistolier match that I actually recorded at PAX Prime, which was about a month ago up in Seattle. They were showing off the multiplayer. I'm pretty excited to have this matchup because this is actually the only mode that they were showing at E3 that I don't already have on my channel. So they were showing off like a Purist Wanted mode, the Frantic mode, and Pistolier, and this is the only one I didn't get footage of, so I was really kind of excited that I was able to get some footage of it at PAX Prime instead. So I'm playing as the Physician, who is the kind of updated doctor character. He's very cool. And Pistolier, I've mentioned a bit in the other videos, I think, but just to kind of refresh your memory, Pistolier is unique in the sense that they've used GameLab to kind of disable melee kills. So you can't do the normal kills that everybody knows and loves since the beginning of the multiplayer. You can actually only kill using the pistol, which starts to introduce a lot of interesting dynamics. This is pretty much, I think it's exactly the same build that they were using at E3, so nothing's changed since then, which is why everything probably looks somewhat familiar if you've seen all the E3 footage from before. So it is a forced ability set. Of course, you have the pistol to kill. You also have Disguise and Shield in order to kind of help protect yourself against the people who are trying to shoot you. They've also used GameLab to set things like the aiming time. So you can set the aiming time on ranged weapons to be various parameters. So you can have it be kind of a long aim time, a very short aim time, which is what this is. It's almost as if the gun is crafted to have quick aim time. One thing that's kind of interesting is you can actually make the ranged weapons aim time instant, is one of the parameters you can set in GameLab. So you can see right here how I get stunned right here. So this is kind of an interesting thing that happens when you disable melee kills. Suddenly it pays to be really aggressive with your stuns, and so even though I could see who he was, who my target was and everything, because I have to pull out my pistol and aim, if you can do it quick enough, you can run up and just punch them and they can't really do anything about it. So at least this really kind of new dynamic that we haven't really had in any modes before, where you'll see your target sprinting at you and it's slightly terrifying because you know that they'll punch you if you can't aim your pistol fast enough and shoot them. So, so just to reiterate, these modes that they created are not necessarily going to be shipping with the game. They're all just kind of demonstrations of how you can use the GameLab to modify existing modes. So basically, at this point, they've revealed pretty much that there's not really, I don't think, any new modes returning. It's more just all of the AC3 modes pretty much coming back. So you have Wanted, you have Deathmatch, Assassinate, and then on the team modes you have Manhunt, Artifact Assault, and Domination. And then you can use GameLab to take any of those base modes and modify the parameters on them. So modes like Pistolier, Frantic, and Purist are not necessarily going to be with the game. It's just kind of an example of what you can do with the game. The other thing that's interesting here, another thing they've modified with GameLab, is they've made all of the cooldowns to be very short. This is another thing you can adjust in various ways. So you can say all the abilities have a very short cooldown, which is, I believe, the setting on this one. Or you can have it on a long cooldown, or you can also make them instant, which is also kind of interesting, right? Because it's like as soon as your ability is done being used, you can just use it again right away. And I think that'll be something that's kind of, I mean, kind of fun to play around with, even though I know a lot of people complain about like ability spam and everything. I think with the right ability sets, it could be kind of interesting. So. As far as general tactics here, so I'm playing here at PAX Prime. I believe this was just a game against a bunch of random people, and so the tactics I use are kind of straightforward. If you're playing against newer players, you can pretty much fire off your pistol right away. You don't have to think about them using shield because most of them won't react in time. And if you get locked on, which is another thing you can modify in GameLab, you can see this lock-on symbol that appears above your head. You can usually activate your shield right away, and they won't pay attention to it. But it's really different because I played with some people who were a lot better at the game, who had played it before and knew the mechanics, and it becomes really interesting with kind of higher levels because there's much more kind of like baiting people into, you can't fire your pistol right away because you gotta see if they're gonna pull out their shield, and then it's a little bit of a mind game going on. But when you're playing against new players, it's a little bit more straightforward. I think it's a little bit harder for them to grasp the game in general. Another thing that's interesting, you can see the civilians kind of back away and look. So this is something that kind of would be helpful in Pistolier, but I didn't think about it at the time. When you fire your pistol, actually it's just a little tip, but like any civilians that are nearby will kind of react to the person who fired the gun. They'll all turn towards them and then kind of slowly back away. And so, you know, when I look back at that clip, I was trying to find who was shooting at me. If I had paid more attention, I could have seen very easily that it was this disguised rebel that all the civilians were kind of backing away from. So you can use little tips like that to help find who you're looking for. It does tend to be a very fast-paced mode since you really want to close the distance to your target. But if you miss your shot, or if they block it with their shield, you have to be careful because the shield comes back sooner than the pistol does. So when I was at PAX, they were doing a bunch of things related to multiplayer, which is awesome because they haven't had a real multiplayer presence at PAX previously. But in case you missed it, they revealed a bunch of new things. They unveiled a couple new maps. There's one called Prison, which is very... it's a lot like maps like Sienna or Soup, ones that don't have a lot of rooftops, actually. So it's a pretty cool map. And then also La Havana. And Havana just looks absolutely gorgeous, just like it does in single player. So they revealed some maps, they revealed some new abilities. There's one called Booby Trap, which will, as the name kind of suggests, put a booby trap on chase breakers. And then anybody who runs through the chase breaker who's not your teammate, or in free-for-all modes it could be any other player, the next person who runs through it and activates the chase breaker basically gets killed. And you get like 100 points for it. So it's kind of an interesting ability. It seems like it'll really shine, I think, in Artifact Assault will be the big mode that it's used for a lot. They also have an ability called Sabotage, which is a ranged ability, and what happens is you shoot it at someone, and then if they happen to try to use an ability in the next few seconds, it basically it blocks them from using their ability, but the ability goes on cooldown. So it's different from, say, Wipe or Mute. Whereas Mute and Wipe would just prevent you from using your ability, Sabotage actually puts it on cooldown. It's as if you had actually used it. So, but it also only affects one person, unlike Wipe and Mute. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out in kind of modes like Manhunt, I think, will be interesting, especially since I don't believe Wipe is returning, as far as I know. So with both Booby Trap and Sabotage, there are kind of subtle, I was talking to Damien about this, kind of subtle effects that will kind of alert you to the presence of these things, and so it's something you kind of got to watch out for. But you know, in the case of Booby Trap, if you're just trying to get away from someone, you might not notice the subtle animus effect on the door and just run through it and die. But yeah, so it was a really fun time at PAX. It was really cool to see people, including Damien, who recently revealed that he is leaving the NC multiplayer team to go work on a secret project in Ubisoft Montreal. And those of you who have seen my channel know that like I've interviewed Damien more than anybody else for my channel, and he's been super awesome. And so, you know, I don't know if Damien's watching this, but like I obviously really appreciate all the interviews he's given for my channel and everything. And so if you guys want, maybe like you can find him on Twitter at like Damien Keegan, and thank him for all the hard work he put into the multiplayer, because he definitely put a lot of effort into it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's been kind of a slow month. I've been moving and stuff, but I do have a ton of videos planned for the next few weeks covering multiplayer, so look out for those very soon, and I'll see you later.